Oh my God, you just pressed play on my new podcast, which means I finally got off my ass and made a fucking podcast. Yes, girl. After 9 months, I finally pressed record. Do you know how long 9 months is? It takes 9 months to make a baby and not a day sooner. But guess what, bitch? 9 months, and here we are. We pumped it. And I know what you're thinking. Lennox, why did it take you 9 months to film this podcast? You're literally laying in your bed. Well, let me tell you, I was coming up with every single reason in the book for why I wasn't ready to film yet. I needed the best equipment. And then I would say, oh, but I need to get my roots done. I can't do an episode without fresh roots. So I would write my outline for the pilot episode. I would get my roots done the next week. And by the time I looked back at the outline, I was like, I'm not really liking this outline. Let's work on it again. It was not about the lights. It was not about the camera. It was not about the set. It was not about my hair. I was simply coming up with every single excuse in the book to not film this podcast. I was ready to make a podcast called Pumping It, but I wasn't pumping it. I was procrastinating it. And I know you guys listening can relate. How many times do we do this about every single thing in our lives? Perfect example. About last August, I just moved to my new apartment and I was telling myself, okay, I'm getting older. I really want like the furniture and everything, the feng shui to be perfect, exactly how I want it. I just had a bed. I wasn't ready to get a dresser yet. I wasn't ready to get a mirror yet. I wasn't ready to hang up anything on my walls. I wasn't ready to do anything because I wanted my furniture to be absolutely perfect. If I was going to do it once, I was going to do it right. In my friend group, I'm typically the girl who's like, okay, everyone come to my house. I'll host. Let's give it. But months had gone by since I moved to my new place. And everyone was like, when are we going to see your new house? Are you trying to hide something? And the real thing was, I had no furniture in my house. I had no dresser. I barely had a couch. I barely had a TV. But don't worry, it's all about to be perfect soon. Girl, I moved in August. It was February. Finally, my friend came over. We had to do something where we were going from one club to the other, but we had to stop at mine quick to change. And I remember she was like, I'm coming in. And I was like, okay, but it's not ready yet. I just moved in. She walked in and she saw the status. She was like, girl, you're like still living out of boxes. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, 9 months had passed by. And this concept of perfect furniture setup that I had in my head, I never did it. Instead, I just waited around and nothing was happening. And I've basically been living like a hoarder. Finally, my friend said, okay, Lennox, I'm checking back in a week. You better have all this fucking furniture. I don't care if it's a $150 dresser off Amazon. I don't care if you need to mount the TV by sucking off some guy on Grindr. You are going to get this apartment done in 1 week. And if it's not done in 1 week, then you are officially a weird hoarder girl. And I'm going to tell everyone. So I kicked my shit into gear. I got that $150 Amazon dresser. I got that random mirror and I hung everything up because I wasn't about to have some bitch running around town saying I'm a hoarder. A week goes by. She pulls up to my house. My entire apartment is done. And I haven't thought about the perfect apartment furniture once. I've walked into my home every single day and thought, oh, I love my apartment. Oh, I'm so happy I could put my clothes in a dresser. I never needed that perfect moment. That perfect thing wasn't real. I just had to do it. I just had to pump it and get things done. After I had learned that's all you have to do in life is you just have to do it, I started applying that to other parts of my life. And I noticed the same thing I had been doing with my home, I had also been doing with my big projects. Because I'm not just trying to make a podcast, I'm also trying to write a book right now. It's been 3 years. There's no book. I've been trying to make an album. It's been years. There's no album. I've been trying to do this podcast for 9 months and there was not a single episode filmed. It was getting crazy. And I know you guys at home can relate. We all do this. It's not anything to beat ourselves up over, but it is something that we can change. And the way we change it We just do it. I had to just get all those other limiting beliefs and those scary ass little thoughts in my head and kick them out of my head. And I pressed record. And because I pressed record, that is the only reason I can say right now, welcome to episode 1 of Pumping It. Wait, I wanted to like shake my boobs. Pumping It, I feel like that is definitely not allowed, but whatever. We ain't gonna make money on the first episode anyways. So now that we've made it here, I know what you guys are wondering. What the hell does pumping it mean? Let me tell you. Pumping it is a term that I came up with that means nothing and everything at the same time. It's not just a phrase, it's a state of mind. It's a way of being. It's a lifestyle. You can pump it home from the club at 6 a.m. You can pump it to that work interview and get that job. You can pump it up to that man and say something really slutty and get fucked by him. You can pump it emotionally through a depressive episode. It's March 28th, rent's due on the 1st, and you got $0. Bitch, you better pump it. Ultimately, pumping it is having delusional optimism, perseverance, and the gall to go into that room even when you're not supposed to be there and eat it. And I knew that I was living the pump it life. Yes, it took 9 months to get my bedroom done. And yes, it took 9 months to get this podcast done. But you know what? I have a bedroom now and I pressed record. And that's why I wanted this podcast to be all about pumping it and helping other people pump it too. Because if I can pump it, you can pump it, and then we all can pump it. I think that's my catchphrase. I don't know. We're workshopping it, whatever. I told you the outline wasn't done yet. Okay, so let's break it down because pumping it is a philosophy. So say there's a nightclub. There's the most exclusive party happening inside. You want to get in there, right? You go up to the club and you see, oof, there's a really long line all the way around the block. So there's 2 people. The first person is going to see that line and either accept their fate, get in the back of the line, or they're just going to give up, go to another bar, get wasted, and then never go inside the club. But not us. That's not what the Pump It girls do. We do something else. Pump it to the very front. The bouncer's going to be like, there's a line, back of the line. And you're going to come up with some sickening pump it scheme to make sure that you get into that fucking club. Oh my gosh, I'm the next DJ. The music's gonna stop if you don't let me in right now. The owner, Simon's not responding and I really have to get in. If you don't let me in, then the music's gonna stop and I'm just running late and they said it'd be fine. The bouncer's gonna lift up that rope and let you right in. And 5 minutes later, you're gonna be drinking 1942 with Kylie Jenner. You're welcome. And you know where the girl is that didn't pump it? She's at the bar down the street getting wasted, watching it all happen on Instagram. That's not the type of girls we are. Pumping it is about refusing limitations. You're not listening to the voices in your head that say, wait until you get the perfect furniture. Wait until you have the perfect lighting setup. Wait until you have no, they just do it. And they fix it later. And if they don't fix it, then they just own that they flopped. Do you know how many times I have flopped and I've just owned it? A good way to think when you're afraid of failure is, you know, in Mean Girls, when Regina George gets the holes cut in her shirt and she puts on the shirt with the holes in it, she literally looks at it and keeps walking. Then later that day, everybody else has holes in their shirt. That's how we have to treat failure. That's how we have to treat the possibility of flopping because we're all human. We all messed up. So we're not going to be afraid of that anymore, right? If this episode flops, if this podcast gets everyone to look at me sideways, I'm just going to make the next episode better. And I'm going to make the one after that better. And it's just going to go on and on and on until I have the best podcast in the world. Because that's how you do it. That's how you pump it. Whether it's a literal club door or a metaphorical door, we are going to go up to that door and get in. And if we can't get in the front door, there's always a side door. And if we can't get in the side door, we're going to break in through the window. There's always a way in. And the craziest part is that the people in that room, the people at the top that we look up to and think are better than us, they're just like us, except they did it. They too were outside that club and they saw the long line and they chose to walk up to the front. Anyone who has gotten anywhere in their life, they put themselves in that room first. And that's how I want you guys to think. I'm going to tell you a real life example of when I've pumped it in my career. So about 5 years ago, I was just a nightlife promoter, party girl. I would get paid about $150 to go to parties. You have to bring people, post the flyer on your Instagram. That kind of career is not the destination. That is the vehicle, right? And I thought, okay, how am I going to take this career to the next level? And I had this idea one day. I was like, what if I started a nightlife column? And in the nightlife column, I would write about the best parties that happen every single month in New York City. I would call it What You Missed Last Month, According to Linux. I would do a little photo shoot with each article. Seemed like a brilliant idea. The limiting belief in my head would have told me, okay, first things first, I have to find a publication. Nope, that's not what you do. What I did was I wrote the article and I shot the cover. And once I had that completed project, I pitched it to every single publication I could think of. Finally, one publication, Paper Magazine, accepted it, and the rest was history. I started writing every single month what you missed last month in New York City, according to Linux. And I did this for about a year. So about 12 articles came out from my perspective saying the best things that were happening in New York. Then I started getting invited to all these crazy cunt parties that I'd never been invited to because they wanted me to go there and write about it in the article. It was like a genius business move. But after a year, I was like, okay, the formula is getting kind of stale. How do I take things to the next level? My first idea was, okay, all these girls are going to Paris Fashion Week. I want to go to Paris Fashion Week, but I'm never invited to Paris Fashion Week. I'm not a model. I'm not a fashion girl. I'm not this, that, the other. No one's inviting me. So I'm just going to have to invite myself. I looked at the calendar and I said, okay, when is the next Paris Fashion Week? September. I saved up every fucking nickel, penny, and quarter that I had to get myself to Paris. And finally, September came around. I had about $1,500. I took the cheapest flight, the cheapest hotel, and I pumped it. I snuck into every single Paris Fashion Week party that was happening that week. Oh, I'm here with Paper Magazine. I'm Linux. I'm here with Paper Magazine. I said that to every bouncer. They let me right in. They didn't give a fuck. No one gave a fuck. Everyone spoke French. I took my little photo in front of the Eiffel Tower. A week went by. I wrote this whole article about all the parties I went to and all the things that happened. And even if I didn't make it to the big parties, I literally just went on Getty Images and just guessed what was happening and wrote about it on the article. And a few days later, live on Paper Magazine, Paris Fashion Week, according to Linux. And the rest was history. I pumped it. I came back to New York, a legend. Everybody thought that I had flown to Paris, invited to all those events. And then the following Paris Fashion Week, I got all these emails from people being like, Linux, we really hope you can make it back to Paris. We have all these parties happening that we want you to cover for Paper Magazine. It was crazy. I literally scammed my way into being a writer for Paris Fashion Week when no one invited me to do so. I took that opportunity on my own. And I realized, wait, if I can do that just for Paris Fashion Week, why don't I do that with everywhere? So I did the same thing for Berlin. There's this club in Berlin called Berghain. It's like the biggest, most exclusive club in the world. I went there, went to the club for the weekend, took a photo outside the club when it was closed, posted it on Paper Magazine. Inside Berghain, 48 hours inside the most exclusive club in the world. And now a professor is teaching that article in his class. This had become my newest formula. I flew myself to Coachella, my first time at Coachella. I was there. I'm there for Paper Magazine. I got invited to all these parties. I got a free pass to Coachella, and I released the most viral article about Coachella that year. After Coachella, since I was already in California, I spent like a week in LA, and I went to like 4 clubs in LA, took a photo in front of the Beverly Hills sign, and then I posted LA nightlife according to Linux. And then literally LA Weekly reposted the article and was like, oh my God, the New York downtown it girl came to LA to see if nightlife is all it's cracked up to be. I forced myself into those rooms. And the next thing I know, I had an entire portfolio of published articles at all these places, and no one asked me to do it. I just did it. I just pumped it. I flew back to New York because that's where I live, and it was Met Gala. I was like, oh my God, let me just keep on doing this. I took a photo outside the Met in some drama-ass dress, had it edited real quick, and then I snuck into a bunch of the Met Gala after parties. Then I wrote an article. I party crashed every single Met Gala after party, and this is what happened. Literally became the #1 Met Gala after party article in the world. I've done that 3 years in a row, and it works every time. That is what happens when you take matters into your own hands and you pump it. And this doesn't just apply to work. This can apply to your love life. This can apply to your relationship with your family, to your health, to your mental health, to your appearance, to the friends you want, to the place you want to live. If you just take matters into your own hands and you don't listen to those voices inside your head, you can just pump it and you will have the life that you dream of. I want to kind of give you guys a metaphor. We're going to call this the boat metaphor. So, say there's a boat at the harbor and you're deciding whether or not you want to get on. You're thinking, oh, maybe a nicer boat will come along. Oh, maybe a boat that has a better destination will come along. Oh, I don't have the perfect suitcase packed with all my boat clothes that I'm going to wear. So then you don't get on the boat. Someone else gets on the boat in your spot. They make it to the destination. They got on that boat. Where are you? You're still at the dock. You haven't even gotten started yet. And what if another boat is never coming? What if that boat right there was the boat you were supposed to get on that was going to take you to this magical new life of yours with all your dreams coming true? Think of this boat as opportunity. Whether you get on that boat of opportunity or not, someone is going to, and they will get that opportunity. You need to be the one that gets that opportunity. You need to get on the boat. My final question to you is, are you pumping it or not? I'm pumping it. I'm sitting right here with hot ass lights in my bedroom with a microphone in my hand, talking to my fucking camera. Are you pumping it, skipping that line and getting inside the club? Are you getting on that boat of opportunity? Or are you just standing there at the dock? Are you just standing at the back of the line? Which person are you going to be? I know which person I want to be, and I know which person you can be. You just got to pump it. No one is ever going to escort you to the front of that line. No one is going to call you and say, oh my God, Lennox, we're flying you to Paris. You're invited to all these places and we're going to set up the shoot for you too. And you're going to be cunt. No one does that. That's not how life works. Maybe to some people, but not to us. And it's at least not happening right now. We are not going to waste our whole lives sitting at home waiting for someone to call us. We're going to get our asses up and pump it. Because that's what we do. And yes, there are going to be haters. There are going to be a bunch of people seeing you really go for it. And they're going to think, oh my God, she's really going for it, isn't she? They're going to be rolling their eyes. You're going to be thinking you're cringe. But then 9 months are going to go by and you have been pumping it for that whole 9 months. And they're going to be saying, oh my God, she actually pulled that off. Gag. So whatever your version of pumping it is, starting that podcast, doing that new look, working out every day, getting that man that you know you deserve. Whatever it is, I want you to do it, at least today. Today, after this is over, I want you to think about what crazy ass pump it thing you can do. I don't care if it's midnight. I don't care if it's 7 a.m. Do it. Do it. Pump it. I want you to start right now, not when you're ready. There's no green light that's going to be like, okay, you can go now. The only difference between the people who do it and the people who don't, the people who do it just did. And that's all for episode 1. I just wanted to get the foundation settled before we really pump it. Okay? Goodbye. Mwah.